Well, good morning on this Wednesday. Again, my apologies for missing Monday. Completely my fault. Um, as David had been originally scheduled to do the devotionals for this week, but then with baby coming, could I take that week off? And I said yes, and then forgot that I should do the devotionals for this week. So, apologies for Monday. Yesterday was already scheduled, that Bible Project video. Again, can't recommend their resources enough. What they provide is actually better than what we're doing here. But again, we're just walking through the Bible at a bit of a slower pace, smaller pieces. But to get big picture of books and big picture of themes, Bible Project is awesome. Today, we're going to look at Deuteronomy chapters 8 and 9. And in chapter 8, Moses is encouraging, remember, this is the second generation of the nation that had left Egypt through the Exodus, right? They were slaves. They exited Egypt by God's miraculous power, but that first generation rebelled. They came to the edge of the promised land, went, nope, too big for us, too big for you, God. We're not going to do it. And that generation, 40 years, camped out in the desert, wandering around. Now the second generation is on the cusp of the promised land. And Moses is saying, remember your experience with God. Remember what God has done for you. And the reason is so that they wouldn't forget when they were in the land to celebrate who God is, what he had done. And well, if they forget who God is and what he's done, only bad things would result. Now, here's a thing that I really have never really caught on to the degree until on the last couple of years, again, thanks to the Bible Project largely. And once I kind of caught on to this, it's just all over. And here's this theme in this chapter again of what God is giving Israel was kind of like an Eden opportunity 2.0. I mean, it's a land of milk and honey. It's a land of bounty. There's a section in this chapter of the agricultural abundance that's going to be, the prosperity that's going to be for the people. It's Eden 2.0. And with Eden 2.0, though, this opportunity for blessing comes also the opportunity that Adam and Eve had to listen, trust, and obey. Adam and Eve failed. Here's Moses to the people going, look, remember who God is. Remember what God's done so that you will listen, trust, and obey. A little bit of my language, or actually I'm channeling a little bit of a former president of our denomination who was my pastor and professor. Just a simple kind of formula to remember of what am I called to do as a follower of Jesus? Listen, trust, and obey. Put myself in a posture to listen. One of the ways to do that, remember what God has done. Remember who God is. And God in chapter 9, or Moses, is saying, look, this promised land is not going to be taken because of your strength, because of Israel's power, or even because that Israel was good. It wasn't because, oh, you're so obedient that I'm just going to bless you. That's not what God's saying here through Moses. It's, I'm good. I'm faithful to my promises, and I promised Abraham, I promised your ancestor, your descendants would occupy this land. Your descendants would have this opportunity. And so Moses says, stay faithful. Not like your parents' generation and the golden calf, where they just immediately started worshiping another God. And at the end of chapter 9, we see Moses talking about how he interceded for the people. And notice as you read this, Moses interceded based on God's promises. It's another example where we see here Moses saying to God, God, you've said you're faithful. You've made these promises. Don't wipe out this nation for their disobedience, because then people might think you're not faithful yourself. And so I just want to give this as a model for our own intercession on behalf of others. What are the promises God has made? And again, that's not just, we can't just say, hey, here's a verse and I'm going to claim this as my own. That's not how we properly use scripture. We see who is God, what has he done, what has he said, why has he said it, and we take these promises that God, you're always going to be with us. That God, you're never going to forsake us. God, that you've promised us that if we ask you for wisdom and we listen, you will give it. What are the promises that we can be just bringing before God on behalf of others as we intercede for them? Again, at any point, if there's questions that get prompted by these devotionals or questions from whether it's the text we're talking about or as just your own reading of scripture, whatever kind of path and kind of program you're going on, love to answer any questions, love to have conversations about following Jesus. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you. May the Lord be gracious. And today, would you know his peace? God bless.